But all right, we're live. Yay. All right, Coaching to Flourish is live. Welcome, everyone. Master Certified Coaches John and Raj. Hopefully, my mic is good. Thanks for all the comments last week. It's helpful figuring this out. And yeah, happy January 10. Feel like we're getting into settling into 2023, and so far 2023 has been amazing. So hope it's going well, and welcome. And here we are, another Q&A session.
Hi, welcome everyone. It's good John and I have been in a team meeting as well today. So there's lots of exciting things happening, and we've got more and more great questions coming in from coaches and people that are interested in coaching. So if you are either one of those things, please keep sending us your questions so that we can explore and discuss. And John, I've got some questions today that are from coaches. So it's around client experience. So I'm going to go into it with the first question. So do you have any tips for helping impatient clients manage their expectations of the coaching process?
Impatient clients?
Yeah.
Like clients who just want you to tell them what to do?
I think so. I don't have a lot of context around this, but I have worked with a lot of impatient clients,
Yeah,
execs.
let's have you take this one first, Raj. This is a fun one. I like this one.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. And I think especially for people who are new to coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone who's new to coaching, and I work with a lot of execs who are high achievers and kind of looking for a specific outcome or a specific result, or they want to speed things up because everything that they do and everything that they're involved in is fast. So a tip that I would give straight off the bat is to really think about what you put in your design the alliance with your client. And I'm probably going to go back to design the alliance a few times today. In how do you share in that design the alliance what is coaching, what isn't coaching? How do you look at expectations? And we've talked about this before, John, haven't we? It's meeting people where they're at. And I would get curious about impatience as well. You can feel and sense when somebody is impatient. So I think being really clear in the design the alliance, really talking about what coaching is, what coaching isn't. A lot of things that I talk about myself, even from my business coachability, is the growth mindset. And I will share with people that some of the things that we're looking at is emotional fitness or mental fitness. And you wouldn't go to the gym once and expect to be in great shape. I really wish you could, but you wouldn't. So for me, it's the same when we're thinking about growing and nurturing kind of that mental and emotional piece as well. I'll stop here and see what you're thinking, John.
I'm thinking the sun came out, and I feel like we get like 7 minutes of sun. This is the season for 7 minutes of sun a day. So I'm just going to keep the blind up to get as much vitamin D. I don't even, the windows might even block vitamin D. Who knows? But anyway, the idea. So I don't know. I go two different ways on it. I'm curious because I think if the impatience is based on, I just want you to tell me what to do. That's a different kind of impatience from, and then the sun goes away. That's a different kind of impatience from, I want to just get this coaching session moving faster. So in my experience when I was working with executive clients, and I felt there was a level of impatience where, okay, I need to make sure this is worth my time. As a coach, absolutely 100% honor that and put it back on the client. What would make this worth your time? It's not going to work long term if the coach says, no, we need to go slow, we need to trust the process, we need to be patient, you will get to where you need to go. No, it's okay, use the impatience, run with it. I would embrace impatience 100% and put it onto the client. Okay, what makes this worth it? See what they say. They say, I need to figure this out. Dude, I think you've already figured it out. What's the answer? How'd that answer feel? Saying it out loud. That's the, meet the clients where they're at. Just run with it. I love working with impatient clients. I really do. But if they're impatient in the sense of where people just say, I just want you to tell me what to go, or tell me if coaching is worth it, or just consult with me. If they're used to like consultants, then that's more of a, like what you're speaking to, design the alliance moment, make sure they know what coaching is and isn't. Yeah, it depends on the nature of their impatience.
And I loved what you said there, John, as well as being curious about that impatience. It's meeting people where they're at, because sometimes I have to adapt my coaching style. And I can get very, I have some clients who want to be in being so much. And we get grounded together or use some of those spiritual pieces. They are looking for that visualization. And then I do have other clients, as I say, I contract with organizations. They might not have that many sessions. So it might be that you have to dance and groove with that and adapt some of your style with who you're coaching.
Totally.
Or maybe you're not the right coach for them as well. I've had that.
It's a luxury to get to a space where you don't have to work with every client who comes your way. It took me a couple of years to get there, but once I got there, it was amazing. I feel like my sessions became much more powerful. I was speaking at a conference in Dubai, and Marshall Goldsmith was there as well. He gave a keynote, and he's a pretty big executive coach. One of the things that he said that really stuck with me was, in order for me to become a better coach, I needed to get better clients. Wow. So what that means is that the initial, I need to get my client base full so I'm financially sustainable. Once you get to that point and you can tell people, look, like, I only really want to work with you if it's really going to work. You find your clients who mesh well with you. But if you're in a space where you need to take every single client who says yes, because I was there for years, or if you're working in an organization where they assign you people, I also did that too, where I was contracted as an executive coach. And I had to work with some people who were very much apprehensive about coaching. They wanted me to talk about coaching, prove that coaching works. And I had to do it because I was being paid by a third-party consulting firm that was being paid by the organization. So I had those conversations too. It would be fascinating to get to a spot, even in those conversations, to be like, look, I don't really need to do that right now. If you want to coach, we can. If you don't, that's fine. But even when a lot of the work that we do with colleges and universities, sometimes the colleges and universities will ask us, how do we frame this so that the college or university is paying for the spot for the advisor to sit on sit in the training, but sometimes advisors are voluntold. They're, okay, you have to go do this. And we found that that's not fun, because if you have a group of 12 people and 2 out of the 12 people don't agree with it, they're actively fighting against it, then the whole time the trainers they're talking about, well, do I really have to do the double work of proving to a skeptic in a class something that I'm trying to teach you? That's just not fair for anybody. So I think a lot of it is sometimes managing expectations. A lot of people have doubts about coaching, but this is 2023. Like, coaching works, and there is so much, so many studies, so many just case studies, stories. It's well known. I feel like I lose patience with it. Talk about impatience. I get impatient sometimes with the doubters. I'm like, doubt if you want, but it works. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as I was listening to you talk there as well, I think the only other thing I would add is perhaps adapt your length of your sessions. I've got some clients that love that hour. I have some that want 30 minutes. Maybe those are the ones a little bit impatient, or 45-minute sessions. So perhaps that's one of the things to recheck in with somebody as well, like revisit that design the alliance. What would work for you? Some of the questions that you were asking right at the beginning. Okay, thanks, John. We're going to move on to, this is another tips question. So loads of tips questions today. Do you have any tips for having difficult conversations with clients regarding accountability?
I feel like that was half of my life as a coach. was getting people to do stuff, um, you know, having them follow through on it. Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on this. So my first one is, I know that there is an element of, as a coach, I'm successful if people are following through and doing their accountabilities. If they're not following through, then somehow I'm not being a good enough coach. I've been involved in discussions where some coaches have argued, well, then you should not work with that client. Then it's not worth, they're not getting their money's worth. It's not on topic. It's not in professional integrity to keep working with clients if they aren't taking action steps. I can see that perspective. Another perspective that I like is, well, what is the client learning about themselves or in not following through, and getting curious about what is that thing, and not looking at it as a problem, but looking at it as an opportunity for insight, especially if a client's paying for coaching, or if they're in this space and they're paying for it, they're coming every 2 weeks or whatever, and they're still not taking the action steps. Why not? What is it in their life that's still unresolved that if they say they want to do something, they don't follow through on it? That's a huge thing. That's a really big deal. So there's an opportunity there to explore and look at it, but it shuts down if there's judgment. It shuts down almost completely if there's judgment. I was listening to Mike Tomlin. He's the head football coach of the Steelers. There was a clip of his press conferences. And it's the end of the season. I was curious about what he would say about it. And he said something about not what guys are capable of doing, but what they're willing to do. And how that made the difference. And that really struck me. The difference between what someone is capable of doing versus what they're willing to do. In my mind, as I was taking a walk yesterday, I was also thinking about, well, what about want? Like, so how do you start to categorize, like, what's the difference between wanting to do something, being capable of doing something, and being willing to do something? And that's the space that I would play in with clients, getting curious about that. So I don't think that it's a hard conversation as much as it's a curious conversation with a very real foundation of, we're having this conversation in the context that you haven't followed through on your accountabilities for the last month or two. That's a pretty big thing. What's here? That's how I approach it.
Yes, like curiosity. And being curious even with yourself as a coach, why does this conversation or this question around accountability feel difficult to me? And being an assessor at Coach Training UDU, this often comes up when I'm listening to recording around direct communication or holding somebody accountable or challenge. And it might be that we are bringing our map of the world and our values and our own belief systems around accountability into it. Or maybe we think that holding somebody accountable or direct communication, I've talked to coaches before, it's felt mean to them. It's almost as though, I'm not sure how to do this. So as I say, I'm harping on about design the alliance, kind of making sure that you are partnering with someone right at the beginning. You're asking them how they want to be challenged. How can you hold up the mirror? I said, look, part of my role is going to be to call you out. How would you like me to call you out? How would you like me to challenge you if I'm seeing something that you're not seeing? So I ask those questions in the Design the Alliance. And the other thing here with that curiosity is, I was thinking about this question myself and how my own coach said to me at the end of last year, she said, what am I going to do with you? You've not followed through. She said, what am I going to do with you? You've not followed through on this. And I thought about it, and I didn't like it. It was prickly for me because I like to think I'm a real accountable person. Yet one of the things I realized was that there's some jet lag here. I had actually caught up with my own self-awareness and who I wanted to be. And the action I had set was no longer relevant for me. So I said, I actually, because I'm being a coach, I said, I'd like to set some new actions and goals. They're not applicable for who I am now.
Right. Right. I once was in a discussion with Laura Whitworth. She was one of the founders of the ICF. And she gave this example of a client she was working with who was not following through. And she said, okay, for this week, you're not allowed to do stuff. Like, you can't do stuff this week. So she said, sure enough, the client rebelled and did stuff. And I don't know. I mean, it's a fun story. It's a fun example. But it stuck with me. I think about it from time to time. I think sometimes people have interesting relationships to accountability. And the distinction that I've been playing with just the past week is that this idea between capable versus willing. Wow, how fun is that?
Thanks, John. I think we could talk about this a lot. I'm going to move us on to the next question. And I think all of these are interconnected anyway. But what are some self-awareness questions to ask clients to help them identify blind spots?
Wow, that's an amazing question. Well, I think the coaching process itself identifies blind spots. It identifies areas where people think one thing, but then are they really following through on this or not? I don't know if how useful it is to try to ask a question that identifies a blind spot. Yeah, I don't know. I think the process itself does it. It's similar sometimes. I think when people ask questions in the training, like how should I sit or what should my body language be when I'm in a coaching session, and my response has always been, aside from the obvious, don't don't look complete, don't turn your back on them, or cross your arms or put your hand in your close, put your hand over your eyes or whatever, just something completely egregious. Then if someone is really listening level 2, someone's listening from an empathetic standpoint and asking curious questions that help clients break new ground and new insights, then I think that you can trust that the insights or blind spots that need to be assessed or seen will be assessed or seen, and the insights will create and bring awareness themselves. You can trust it. You can trust the process. You can trust the insights. I don't think you need to actively try to uncover unawareness. I feel like that can get really into coaching the problem. That could easily slip into coaching the problem. Similar to thinking, okay, like I need to sit a certain way and be a certain way when I'm listening level 2. I feel like that takes away from listening empathetically. If you're thinking, what does my body language need to be so I can listen to this person well? You're not really listening. Just listen. Just be curious and trust that the insights needed will come. Now, if you think that there is a client that they are not seeing, like you're seeing something that they are not, that's when I feel like that direct communication needs to come into play, what you're talking about. And you say, look, you need to look at this. Like my coach, he did that to me, was it 2 sessions ago now? He said, nope, stopping this. You need to look at this. And this is the perspective. And I appreciated it. Okay. Let me take that in for a minute. So I think that's how I would do it. Yeah. Yeah, that feels right. What about you, Raj?
Thanks, John. Yes, trusting the process, being curious. Um, for me, with new clients who are new to coaching, not necessarily new clients for me, um, I think using some of the tools initially, if they haven't done the work on themselves and not used to being asked these kinds of questions, and maybe they're keeping it surface level because you don't know what you don't know. I think some of my favorites have been, and I know there were a real mindset shift for me when I went through the program, things like beliefs, perspectives, assumptions. Assumptions is always a great one if you're working with someone and it's kind of they're looking at themselves or they're looking at blame is all outside of them. And they might be telling themselves a story or making assumptions. So I think people are new to coaching. Some of the tools that we learn in Coach Training EDU, I think, are really great to help people get used to thinking in a different way when the coach asks them questions followed from the tools.
It's hard to assess too how much new clients are getting from the coaching process, because from people who have been in coach training, I think there's an awareness of like so many tools. You can see the insights go so deep and are so rich that sometimes when people are new to coaching, the insights might seem shallow, or it might seem like, oh, this session was surface level. But for them, they've never even had a conversation where someone's listened to them empathetically for longer than a minute or two. So 30 minutes or 50 minutes of empathetic listening might be a really big deal. So it's hard to tell when you're a beginning coach how much value the other person on the other side the other side of the call is getting. What you want to avoid, and what took me a while to learn to avoid, is you want to avoid trying to think of, okay, so how did this session provide value for you? Let me prove that this session was useful and provides value for you. I mean, I even know coaches who are extremely well accomplished who will still ask that question, but they're asking the question not for their sake, they're asking the question for my sake. And that is the key distinction. So if you're going to ask the question, ask it so that the client themselves can reiterate it. If you find yourself, and I did this for a while, reiterating, oh, this session is valuable because you made this decision, or this is the insight that I see you having, avoid that. 100% avoid. Not even necessary, not even useful. Takes away from everything. I was even in a sample training, I was running one of these sample training classes, and there was someone I was coaching, and the coaching just seemed so surface, like not even anything. Like she just was going for, just talking about her, almost talking about her day or week. But then I could feel her getting so much value from it because she just never had a chance. I knew it. I could feel it. She never had a chance to explain it the way that she was explaining it in front of a group of people or being listened to empathetically in this way. And you could almost feel the other participants, who are new to coaching, like wondering what's happening. Like, is this? It's subtle, but you could feel, is this what's happening? Like, what's going on here? And then after the session, she broke it down. She said, look, I've never been able to put this together in this way because I just had space to process. I was able to say it in these ways and basically have the processing space to get this clarity to move on to other things. Because human beings, we process so much stuff without being able to say it out loud, without just like, it's almost like this, our processors are overloaded with info, which is a relatively new phenomenon. You think 100 years ago, there was no internet, there was no ubiquity of knowledge. So our processors had very few things to process. Human beings are not meant to process the number of stimuli that are happening in our systems. We're just not. And so now the premium is space. The premium is listening. And this is precisely what coaching offers. So the whole idea of value delivery that we as a civilization have had for millennia is now turned on its head, because what was once the exquisite, rarest stuff, accuracy of knowledge, is now 0.00067 seconds away from a Google search. It's the inner knowledge that's the premium, the value, the inner awareness, and you deliver that through listening. Listening is enough.
Listening is enough. So I know we're on time, but what I'm kind of taking away from this is that everyone is on their own journey, and we meet people where they're at, and wherever they're at is right for them. So I guess we have to release our own, as coaches, our own judgments and assumptions and expectations of what we think value add is, or where somebody else should be in their journey.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Raj. It's fun to see you. It's fun to do
Thanks,
these.
John.
Get back in it. 2023. Here we go. Get to talk about things that we care about and are passionate about. And thank you to the community listening, all the questions. I love a good Q&A. I feel like it keeps it fresh, keeps it fun, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.